You're tired, but not just physically. It's that kind of tired that follows you into quiet moments. The kind that shows up before you even walk into a room where you know they will be. Maybe it's work, maybe it's family, and part of you keeps thinking, if they would just change, everything would feel lighter. So you pray for that. You ask God to remove them, to fix them, to make the situation go away. Because deep down you believe peace only comes when the environment is finally calm, predictable, and safe. But it hasn't happened. And that leaves you stuck in this quiet tension, where your faith is still there, but your expectations feel unmet. And your heart is starting to wonder if peace is always going to be just out of reach. Maybe you've even caught yourself thinking, why would God leave me here with this? That question matters, because it reveals something deeper, not just your frustration, but the belief that your peace depends on your surroundings, that joy can only exist when everything around you behaves the way it should. But what if that's not how it works? What if the version of peace you've been waiting for isn't the one God is trying to give you? Because sometimes the breakthrough doesn't come from escape, comes from a shift, and not out there, but in here. There's something most people don't realize. God's deepest work in you rarely happens in a stress-free vacuum. And that doesn't mean He's ignoring you. It might mean He's preparing something steady, something protected, something that doesn't depend on who's in the room. We'll go there next. There's a line you've probably heard before. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. And maybe it always sounded poetic, comforting, but a little distant, until now, because suddenly it feels personal. A table, not a battlefield, not an escape route. A table, which means God isn't rushing you out of the situation. He's inviting you to sit down, right in the middle of it. That changes everything, because a table is where you rest, where you receive, where you are served, not striving, not defending, not proving your worth, but simply being sustained in a way that no one around you can interrupt, even them. And here's the part that shifts the whole perspective. The verse doesn't say away from your enemies. It says in their presence, which means whatever they're doing, whatever they're saying, whatever energy they bring into the room, cannot cancel what God is placing in front of you. Not your peace, not your provision, not your identity. Imagine this for a second. You're sitting at a beautifully prepared table, warm light, everything you need laid out in front of you. And outside the window, someone is yelling, trying to get your attention, trying to pull you out of your seat. But they can't touch the table. They can't reach the food. They can't remove what's already been given to you. The only way the meal gets interrupted is if you choose to leave. That's the strategy. Not control, not retaliation, but staying seated, receiving what God is giving, even while noise exists. Because this kind of peace doesn't wait for silence, creates it from within. We'll make that practical next. Before anything changes around you, something needs to settle within you. Because boundaries don't start with distance. They start with clarity. And maybe no one ever showed you this, but you're allowed to decide what reaches you and what doesn't, even if you're in the same room, even if they're still talking, even if nothing outward has shifted yet. That's where this begins. Quietly, internally. A boundary prayer isn't about controlling them. It's about reclaiming access to your inner space. The part of you where peace lives, where God meets you, where your thoughts don't have to be hijacked by someone else's behavior. So before you walk into that meeting, that conversation, that environment, you pause just for a moment and you say something like this, slowly, honestly, God, I know you're with me here. What you're giving me today cannot be taken. Their words don't define me. Their energy doesn't enter me. I receive your peace and I stay in it. That's it. Simple, but powerful, because what you're doing is drawing a line that isn't visible to anyone else, but is deeply real to your nervous system, your thoughts, your spirit, and your sense of identity. You're reminding yourself, I can be here without absorbing everything here. Let me ask you something. Who is the enemy at your table right now? A name probably came up, a face, a voice you already anticipate before the day even starts. That's where this prayer goes, not to change them, but to anchor you. Because when your inner space is protected, you don't react the same. You don't spiral the same. You don't carry what was never yours to hold. And that's where peace begins to feel real. We'll go deeper into that next. There's another part of that verse, easy to miss. You anoint my head with oil. It sounds ancient, almost symbolic, but it's more personal than that. Because anointing isn't just about blessing, it's about covering. Back then, oil was used to soothe wounds, to protect, to mark something as set apart, cared for, and intentionally chosen. And that matters more than you think when your mind feels exposed, when every comment lingers, when your thoughts replay moments you wish you could forget. Maybe you've been carrying more than you realize, not just what they said, but how it made you feel, small, tense, on edge, even hours later. And part of you is still trying to process it, fix it, understand it. But what if you don't need to keep reopening that space? What if God is offering something gentler? Close your eyes for a second, if you can, and just imagine this quiet moment, no pressure, no noise pressing in, and God gently placing his hand over your head, not to correct you, not to judge you, but to calm what's been overstimulated, to soften what's been tight, to bring your thoughts back into alignment with something steady, something safe, something grounded in his presence rather than their behavior. You don't have to fight every thought. You don't have to win every interaction. Some things are meant to be healed, not solved. So you acknowledge it. God, I receive your covering. Where my mind feels scattered, bring alignment. Where I feel affected, bring peace. Where I feel drained, pour back into me. This is the shift. Not just protection from them, but restoration within you. Because when your mind is no longer raw, their words don't land the same. Their presence doesn't carry the same weight. And suddenly, you're not just managing the situation. You're moving through it differently. We'll build on that next. There's one more line in this pattern. My cup overflows. And it's easy to hear that and think it's about more blessings, more favor, more open doors. But this part is quieter than that, because overflow isn't just about what you gain. It's about what you notice. When someone drains you, your focus narrows. You start tracking what's being taken, your energy, your patience, your peace. And without realizing it, your whole day begins to revolve around them. What they said, what they might say next, how to avoid it, how to recover from it. But that's not where your life is, and it's not where God is meeting you. Overflow shifts your attention, not by ignoring reality, but by expanding it. So even in that same room, that same conversation, that same tension, you begin to ask a different question. God, what are you giving me right now? Maybe it's a moment of calm that doesn't make sense. Maybe it's clarity where there used to be confusion. Maybe it's restraint where you would have reacted before. That's overflow. It's subtle, but it's real. Try something simple. Just for a second, lift your hands slightly, like you're holding a cup, and imagine it slowly filling, not from anything around you, but from within. Peace pouring in, steadiness rising, something quiet but strong. And then it doesn't stop. It spills over. They can't take what keeps being poured. That's the shift. You're no longer living from what's being drained, but from what's being supplied. And that changes how you walk into every space. We'll take that even further next. There's a moment that always comes when something is said or implied, and you feel it. That quick rise inside your chest. The urge to respond, to correct, to defend yourself. Just so it stops sitting in the air like that. It's automatic. And honestly, it makes sense. Because part of you just wants things to feel fair. But here's the tension. Not every moment needs your reaction. And not every attack deserves your energy. Refusing retaliation isn't weakness. It's restraint with purpose. Because when you're seated at that table, when your boundary is set, when your mind is covered, when your cup is already being filled, you're not empty. So you don't have to grasp. You don't have to prove. You don't have to fight for something that's already being given to you. Maybe you've been thinking, if I don't say something, they'll think they're right. But peace was never about winning the moment. It's about protecting what's happening within you. Even when the moment feels uncomfortable, even when silence feels unfamiliar, even when your instinct is to step in and take control. There's a quiet strength in staying grounded, in letting something pass without attaching yourself to it, in choosing not to carry what was thrown. Say this gently in your own way. I don't need to fight for this. God is already standing with me. What's mine doesn't require defense. You don't need to match their tone. You don't need to mirror their energy, because your stability is coming from somewhere else. You don't need to fight when your shepherd is standing guard. And when that becomes real to you, something shifts. Your presence changes. Your reactions soften. Your energy steadies. And suddenly, you're no longer part of the conflict. You're moving through it. Let's bring this into one simple moment you can carry with you. Right before you walk in, there's a small window, a few seconds, where everything can shift. Not outside, but inside you. Maybe your body is already reacting. A little tension, your thoughts speeding up. That quiet expectation of how it's going to go. But this is where you pause. Not long, just enough to come back to yourself. And you pray this slowly, like you mean it. God, you're already here. I don't walk in alone. You've prepared what I need before I even speak. Set a boundary around my mind. Let your peace stay steady in me. Cover my thoughts so nothing unsettled can take root. Fill me again, even now. Let my cup overflow. Not because things are perfect, but because you are present. I don't need to defend myself. I don't need to carry anything that isn't mine. I walk in calm. I stay grounded. I leave with peace. Take one breath. Slow, steady, and then go. Not bracing, not anticipating, but anchored, because something is already different. And this time, you'll feel it. Before we end, there's one thing I want you to do. Not later, right now. Because this only becomes real when you step into it. Not perfectly, just honestly. So wherever you are, type this or whisper it quietly. I am stepping into peace today. What God gives me cannot be taken. I stay seated. I stay covered. I overflow. Say it again. Slower this time. Let your body catch up with your words. I am stepping into peace today. This is your moment of alignment, not with the situation, but with something deeper. You're not waiting for everything to change. You're choosing how you show up within it. And that choice creates space, creates clarity, creates a different kind of strength. This is where the shift begins. Not loud, not dramatic, but real. And if something in you feels even slightly lighter, even slightly calmer, that's not nothing. That's movement. That's breakthrough, starting quietly. Let's settle into that together. Stay here for a moment. No rush. You've been holding a lot, more than you usually admit. And even now, there may still be tension sitting in your body. Small places that haven't fully let go yet. Thoughts that are quieter than before but still lingering in the background, waiting to see if they're safe to rest. That's okay. You don't have to force peace. You can receive it. So just breathe. Slow, steady, and let this be simple. God, you see what I've been carrying. The weight I don't always explain, the moments that stay with me longer than they should, the quiet stress that builds before I even walk into certain spaces. You see it all, and I don't have to hide it here. I bring that to you now, not to analyze it, not to fix it, just to release it. Take what's been sitting heavy in my chest. Take the thoughts that keep looping. Take the pressure to respond, to prove, to hold everything together. I don't need to carry that anymore. And in its place, I receive your peace. Not the kind that depends on people changing, but the kind that stays, even when nothing around me shifts. Cover my mind gently. Where I've been tense, bring ease. Where I've been reactive, bring stillness. Where I've been drained, pour back into me until there is overflow again. Quiet, steady, and more than enough for what I face. Remind me, I am not alone in any room. You are already there, before I speak, before anything unfolds. And I trust this. What you are doing in me right now matters, even if no one else sees it. Even if the situation looks the same tomorrow. Something is aligning, something is strengthening, something is opening in ways I don't have to force. So I walk forward differently, not guarded, not hardened, but grounded, with you, in peace, in quiet confidence. Amen. If this moment helped you, even a little, stay with it, come back to it. You don't have to rush back into the noise. Let this feeling settle, because this is how renewal begins, softly, and it stays. Just stay here a few seconds longer. No need to rush back. Notice what's different. Maybe your breathing slowed. Maybe your thoughts feel a little less crowded. Maybe something in your chest isn't as tight. Even if it's small, it matters. This is how peace grows. Not all at once, but in moments like this that you return to again and again until it starts to feel familiar, until it becomes something you can access even in the middle of noise. even in the presence of people who used to pull you out of yourself. You're not the same as you were a few minutes ago. Something shifted. Hold on to that. And if you need this again, it will be here for you. If you want more moments like this, more space to reset, to breathe, to realign, you can stay connected. But no pressure. Just come back when you need it. For now, go gently, stay grounded, and carry this peace with you into whatever comes next.